Hello, Hayes. It seems like everyone in my life is so excited for my husband and I to have a baby soon, only we're not sure if we want children, and he might be infertile. I'm a 26-year-old newlywed, and I'm really feeling the pressure. Ever since he and I started dating, though, we've gone back and forth from being indifferent about having kids to definitely don't want. I have an open mind to maybe wanting children one day, and I get the sense that you understand this from the way you've spoken previously on the podcast. But as I said, I have reason to believe my husband might be infertile. The doctors have told him that they've seen people with his medical condition have children before. But when I brought up getting his fertility tested, he didn't seem interested. I totally understand and want to respect his boundaries, but I'd like to know if it's off the table for us, especially since I'm young enough to still have time to change my mind about having kids. And if he was infertile, then I don't think having kids would be the right choice for us. Another complicating issue is that my husband doesn't want me to talk about this with anybody else. But as the woman, I'm the one who's getting most of the pressure to get pregnant. I'd really like to be honest with the people around me that having kids might not be an option for us, so I can get some of the pressure off my back. I'd also like to talk about the feelings I have about this, but feel like I can't share it with anyone without betraying him. I love him, and I'm committed to respecting his boundaries, but this issue affects me too. Any advice? Yours, committed but stuck. This is a really complicated issue, and I can feel and hear that you're not sure how you feel. And I think sometimes it's hard to know what our true feelings are and then how our true feelings are being morphed or affected by our circumstance. And I think that's completely normal to have your feelings change as a result of your lived experience. I think it's one of the ways that we learn to survive in this world. We have to make do with our reality. We can't live in somebody else's reality. You can only exist in yours. And let's say you did want kids, but your husband, the person you love, couldn't have them. I can see how then you might start to feel, oh, well, maybe I don't want them. And I actually think that could be what a possibly wonderful thing to be so flexible in your thinking in that way. But it also is a devastating thing because I think sometimes people's desires to be a parent, understandably, is so strong and so warranted that information like that could really change the relationship, hurt the relationship. And I know you mentioned that if he is infertile, then as of now, you don't think you'd want to have children another way, though there are other ways. So I'm not going to press on that. It's hard, and maybe in this conversation we can try to figure out a little bit what you feel and give you permission to talk about these feelings, because that's what is so important to me here is you do have to talk about these feelings. And your husband does too. Your husband does too. And I wonder if the fact that maybe you're not talking about these feelings with anyone else, either of you, maybe he's not talking about them at all, if that's contributing a bit to what I'm interpreting as potentially some shame or something that's making him not want to go near this topic. Anyway, it's funny. It's not funny, but I did have a personal reaction when you're I'm 26 and feeling the pressure from everyone. It is just wild to me. It's wild to me that anybody could be pressuring a 26-year-old to have a baby. And I definitely know people who are in their 20s and have had kids, and there's no judgment there. Everybody should do things at their own timeline and whatever, but it's just 26 is so young. I think it's so young, and perhaps my worldview is definitely coming through there, but to be pressuring a 26-year-old is fucking insane to me. I don't think it's insane to have a baby at 26. I think it's insane, though, to put that pressure on someone. And the thing about pressure, interestingly, is sometimes we feel pressure from people who are not actually putting it on, but we are projecting that pressure. So that could also be happening, especially if you yourself are feeling ambivalent about kids. If it's on your mind, because it's somewhat, though I think it's misguided and wrong, after people get married, lots of, especially older generations, the next step is having a kid. And people are so obsessed with moving sequentially, advancing through life, that I think sometimes people ask about it or are excited about it just because people want things to look forward to. People are excited by milestones, and they don't always realize how their excitement about life moving on and you hitting milestones, because then they get to hit a milestone, they don't realize how that might make you feel. But if you are aware of if you're aware of other people's wants, and you kind of know deep down that you might not ever fulfill those wants, their dreams for you might never come true, sometimes we can like overinterpret, or we feel pressure even though no one's even really saying anything and no one's really pressuring you. Though I'm not saying that to doubt you. I'm just kind of pointing that out. You also, your line about what I've said in this podcast, it's sort of, you're right. I do understand ambivalence about having kids, but it reminds me, like, what have I? It sort of gives me the heebie-jeebies sometimes. I'm obviously, or not obviously, like I am, whoa, sorry, I just rubbed my eyes weird. Give me a second. I just rubbed my eyes weird and now everything's sort of spinning for a sec. Interesting timing, huh? As I about to talk about something on the more personal side. All right, we're good. I am at peace with my digital footprint and how I share. It is, I think in ways that this is part of what I was born to do, is share and talk about my experience. But it's funny, and I something I'm still learning to be comfortable with is how, just like any person, what I am always growing and learning. Who I am right now is different than who I was a week ago. My thoughts about things have changed in a week. Don't your thoughts change about things over the course of even a day sometimes? And part of the reality of not getting to talk to you all the time about how my thoughts are changing. It's like you might have heard something I said a year ago, and I haven't had the chance or the thought to like tell you how that's changed. And I have to be comfortable with people hearing something I say and then thinking that that's the truth. And that's not I'm not angry or I don't feel misunderstood by what you said here. It reminded me that I have talked about this. And I think that's good. I'm happy that where I'm getting to is that even if I did say something that doesn't feel true to me now, but if you heard it and it made you feel seen or it helped you understand yourself or your decision, I'm okay if you think that's what I feel and I don't feel it anymore. I'm okay with that. So you're right. I do understand having an open mind, or I do understand having an open mind. I think part of my journey to deciding whether we want to have kids has been imagining both our life with and our life without. And I kind of think that's a really valuable exercise to think about. Okay, for when Brian and I got married, I don't think we ever, either of us individually or together, thought about not having kids. Like it was just, I thought it was kind of an inevitable. I didn't think about it much at all. I'm definitely not one of those people that's like dreamed about becoming a mom. I've thought about it, but it's not like, I talk to some people and they're like, oh, I've wanted to be a mom fucking forever. That doesn't resonate with me. There are certainly moments where I'm like, oh, I'd be really good at that. Or wow, that would be really meaningful. And oh, I want that. But it's not like a core yearning. It hasn't been a core yearning for me since I was a wee little girl. Nothing like that. But I think having an open mind to the many ways your life can go is really valuable in the process of making such big decisions. Maybe there's a distinction, though. There's a distinction that I wanted to make. And you said this at the end of your letter, like you're still young enough to change your mind. I do think that there's a difference between changing your mind and coming to a decision. You still have time to come to a decision. But I guess my hesitancy my discomfort with saying that you have time to change your mind is it, because I guess that is true. You do have time to change your mind, but it almost feels disrespectful to your process of being sure about something. And I'm hesitant because I do think sometimes people think they don't want a kid and they're wrong about that thought because they haven't interrogated or thought enough about why they don't want or where the feeling comes from. But then there are also people who don't need to do any of that at all and they just know. And they're not going to change their mind, and suggesting that they will change their mind or might change their mind is kind of disrespectful to the act of knowing oneself. Like when some people, and sometimes you just know yourself so well. I certainly have that with some things in my life where I'm like, you can tell me that I'm going to change my mind, but this is just something I know to be true about me and my bones. And I want to throw that out there to anybody listening, because you might not want to have kids and you might never change your mind about that. And I don't want to suggest that you might. Like, I respect your choice and I respect your knowing of yourself. You, my friend, sound like you are more on the you haven't made a decision yet. You don't know what you think. You haven't come to the decision. And I think those are different. And I want to highlight for you that I think that's where you're at. It doesn't sound to me like you're going to change your mind about something. It's that you're still figuring out what your mind is, what your mind wants. And what does your mind want? I'm thinking about where we should go next. It sounds to me like your husband might not have the experience or the tools or the readiness to explore his possible infertility. And I also have questions about his medical condition and what that experience of living with that condition, whatever it is, being diagnosed with it, like how that affects your life now or how it affects his life now. And does he feel supported in his life as he deals with that? Do you feel supported in being his partner and what it means for you? And it sounds like in what his condition means for your life. Again, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it is impacting you in this way. And you're right that this is such an interesting, like his infertility is not your infertility, but it impacts you. And it does impact your body. And in some ways, part of me wants to be like, it's just as much yours as it is his. I'd be curious for folks listening who have dealt with this, if how it's shown up in your relationships. Do you feel like it's something you share? Like even if you have been the person struggling with fertility or infertile, is it that we are dealing with this, or does it feel? I can imagine. I can totally see how it does feel like just something you're carrying alone, and you're the problem. And I can imagine how painful and shame-inducing that might be. And I wonder if starting to see it as a shared problem is useful or beneficial in the healing process, or if that's created new problems. I'd be curious to hear what your perspectives are. But it does impact you. I want to go back to, so you've suggested to him to get his fertility tested, and he didn't seem interested. I'm curious if he understands why you're making the suggestion. Like maybe we need to circle back, and you guys need to go back and talking about having kids holistically, and maybe it would be helpful for you to share more of your feelings about having kids, kind of separate from the fertility thing. Like it sounds to me like you might want them. You might want them. And maybe you haven't said that to him, or maybe you haven't had an open conversation about it. Maybe we could start there, and then he can start to understand why getting the fertility tested is important. Perhaps he's still operating under the idea that you guys are totally cool not having them. I also can see why he would want to avoid this at all costs. Like I can empathize with that. Maybe he just doesn't want to, maybe he's treating it like it's no big deal because he doesn't want to find out this information. You know your husband better than I do. How does he typically deal with hardship? How does he deal with, things being, quote, his fault? I'm not saying that his possible infertility is his fault, but I could see how he could interpret it that way. And I'm not sure if it's so interesting, like is refusing to get your fertility tested a boundary? I don't know. I'm not sure I'd call that a boundary. It sounds sort of like a rigid rule. But I guess that would be for him to decide. But I think you have a right to want to push through that boundary a little bit, or to question that, to have a conversation about it. I'm not sure if the solution is, I'm not doing it and we're not talking about it, because it does impact you. You're a married couple, you're a team. Both of your health impacts the other person. And maybe he didn't seem interested. Maybe he just didn't know it was important. There's always that possibility, right? So I wonder if you shared more about your true feelings about having a kid, maybe he would understand where this feeling is coming from. But the one area that okay, wait, should we talk about, okay, so he doesn't, these two are kind of connected. So he doesn't want you to talk about this with other people. That to me is what's making me think this is more of like a shame thing. I want to push back on your reasoning a little bit. Like, I don't know if a good argument not that you're going to argue with them about this. I don't know that it's wise to be like, I want to be able to tell people that it's a you problem so that I can get some of this pressure off. I know that's not what you're saying, love, but like I could see how he might feel that way. I would be hurt too if like we were getting lots of pressure in our life about having kids and Brian was like, Alexandra's just not sure. So that wouldn't make me feel good, right? We are a team here. And I don't think like, even I'm rereading your letter now. You said, I'd like to be honest with people that having children might not be an option. I can see how that is really personal and you both collectively might not be ready to share that information yet. If he's not willing to face the possibility of infertility himself and with you in private, I see that he's not ready to talk about that publicly yet as like a way to get pressure off. And I think you have to figure out how to not feel the pressure. I don't know if there's anything you're going to say to make people take the pressure off you. That's something you have to sit with inside. You have to learn how to let the comments and let the questions bounce off. Because ultimately, and I know it's hard as somebody who also really internalizes things other people say, like it is on us to not let other people's stuff impact us. Like we have to be more unbothered. And I don't have the best advice on how to do that. But I think you lean on each other and you realize that their pressure has nothing to do with you. But I don't know if like, I want to lovingly challenge you on that's not the reason. Getting the pressure off your back is not the reason to tell people what's going on. What is the reason to talk about what's going on is, as you said, that you want to talk about the feelings you have about this, as you fucking should, as is your right, as is important for the health of your relationship, I think. It's so important to have people outside of our relationships to talk about our relationships with. Of course, some things are private, of course. But it's not good to have nobody to talk to. I think it's really dangerous to think that anything is so private that it can never be spoken about. And part of trust in a friendship, in a romantic relationship, part of trust, I think, is trusting that the person you love, the person that you're trusting with this thing, so like you and your husband, you guys trust each other. You trust that you each will be discerning in who you share with and how you share, right? That's what I don't think starting a marriage is promising that we'll keep each other's secrets forever. It's like promising that we will do what's right by our relationship. We will handle each other with care. And I think that means including other people in our stuff sometimes. You need support. Of course, like at the end of the day, as much as our decision to have a kid is about me and Brian, and it's about nobody else, it's about the two of us, I have gained so much by talking about my thinking and my feelings with some trusted people in my life. Now, I don't talk about the truth with everybody. There are some people who maybe know that I've been unsure, but they don't know all of the details about why I'm unsure. I haven't shared with them every little update. I haven't shared with them every single thing. I've gained so much from the conversations I've had with some of my friends. Both like it's been a gift to my relationship with some of my friends. You know, I think about like my friend Natalie, who I just had lunch with today. She's probably who I talk about this most with, partially because her son is a little over 1. So I remember when she told me she was pregnant and I've been a part of her journey becoming a new mom and she's been a part of my journey figuring this out. So we talk about it a lot and she knows I'm so grateful that I've had her. Like, I'm so grateful that I've had her. She's never pushed me. She's never judged me. She's listened really intently when I've articulated where my feelings come from. She hasn't assumed where my feelings are coming from. And our conversations have helped me so much in learning. I'm lucky that with Brian, like if this hasn't been a problem, there's been no pressure and there's been no, like we're kind of on the same page. And he interestingly, it's sort of a rare, I mentioned earlier that neither of us had really thought about not having kids. Like when we got married, it just like we sort of assumed we would. I think it's a very interesting gift that when I started to think more critically about the decision, he was like on board with that critical thinking. When I share that with some people in my life, they're always like, that's really fascinating. Like a lot of people wouldn't be on board, and I'm grateful. I'm not surprised though. I think it speaks to the type of relationship that we have, I guess the type of relationship that we were both building when we first started, whatever. I digress. The point is, I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have people other than him to talk about it with, because there's some stuff that it's not that he wouldn't understand, but just like Six Besties theory, different friends for different purposes. There are things that I can get from a friend who isn't going to be the father of my children that I don't want from my husband. The love of a friend, the love of a girlfriend for me, to listen to me and hear me and see me and validate me and give me the permission that if I don't ever want to, that's okay too. That is like, while I will also get that from my husband, receiving that from a friend is like, it's the best. And I think we all you deserve to have friends or siblings or whoever it is to support you through this process. You don't need to do it alone. You don't need to do it alone. Now, that doesn't mean betraying your husband. It doesn't mean talking about him in a way that he'd be uncomfortable with, but he has to show up to this party too. He has to think about how this process is affecting you. And I hope that he can see that you deserve that it's good for both of you, for you to have other people to talk to about this. And I wonder if he just needs to understand more why you want to talk about it. I'm so proud of you for like even addressing the fact that you do have feelings about this. And I want you to know though that I think your feelings about this are more than just the pressure. I think part of the feelings you have are like, you don't know what you want. And maybe you're feeling confused or saddened by the idea that this decision might be taken from you. You thought you had a choice to make, and maybe, if your husband is infertile, maybe you feel like you suddenly don't have a choice to make. And man, that's hard. Friends of mine I know who have struggled with getting pregnant, we've talked about the anger and disappointment at like, I spent so many years worrying about getting pregnant and taking a pill every single day and putting my body through dealing with these hormones and being nervous and taking Plan B, only to then not be able to get pregnant? Are you fucking serious? Are you kidding me? The unfairness of that. And I can see how your mind might be spiraling rightly about some of those things. I also understand you just wanting information. I understand you wanting information about what you're dealing with here. But the only part of it that I challenge you on is you want to know and you want to talk about it to get the pressure off your back. Even if that feels true, I just don't think that that's going to be the most effective way for him to like see your point of view and for him to understand why you want to talk about your feelings with people. I don't think that will. I think that might make him feel more alienated. And, perhaps your husband is not a sensitive being, but if he is a sensitive being, perhaps he's feeling bad about this and embarrassed. And he doesn't want you to talk about it because he doesn't want people to know. He's embarrassed. And I think that doesn't need to be the final word. I think that you both and he should work through that so that you both can get the support you need. But we want to respect his timetable. Like, we want to respect the fact that he might need a little more time and he might need to see where you're coming from more to make that decision. Not to make the decision, but to give you the okay. And for what it's worth, I'm not sure you need his permission. I don't think you need his permission to talk about it. Is that controversial? Do I feel that way? It's really interesting. I don't, do I feel that way? I think that if it comes down to you getting the support you need, I don't think you need his permission to talk about that. I don't think you need his permission to get the support you need. And if the support you need is confiding in a friend, I don't think you need the permission. I'm going to stand by that. Now, I would want his partnership. Like, I wouldn't just be like, he doesn't want me to do it, but fuck him, I'm going to tell everybody, right? Like, you want to be discerning, you trust each other, but I don't think that you need permission. It's your life too, and this impacts you. Now, I think I would probably use that don't ask for permission attitude in more like extreme situations, but I don't think you need someone's permission. Where I'm thinking about it now is like, would if I knew Brian did not want me to talk about something, would I push back? I mean, I can't imagine myself saying to him, if I disagreed, I can't imagine myself being like, okay, I won't tell anybody. I can see myself saying that if I agreed with him, but if I felt like I need to talk about it, then I would tell him that. So maybe that's what I think you should do. You don't need his permission, but maybe you just tell him. You say, I know you don't want me to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it with Sarah. And when I talk about it with Sarah, you can trust that I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z, but here's why I need this. Maybe you could do something like that, like tell him you're doing it. He doesn't have to be happy with it, but then maybe you don't feel like you're lying. That could be a solution. Man, oh man, oh man. I'm really curious, actually, like for those listening, where you are in your children thinking. Like, if you wanted kids, but you realized your partner couldn't have them, and let's say didn't felt really strongly against adopting, or the various ways that a person can come to having kids, like, what do you think would happen in your relationship? I know it's not always so fun to play that, to kind of, it's like a version of doom scrolling, or like to play out some kind of not so happy endings. But I'm curious if that's something you thought about. And while mismatched opinions about having kids is one of the more extreme, probably, examples of a couple disagreeing on something, I'd have to think that over the course of a, God willing, long marriage, long partnership, there's going to be stuff you disagree on. Again, I know babies are a big one. It's really funny though, because I sometimes see the narrative of like, you should never, ever sacrifice your desire to have a kid for someone else. And I've always sort of paused at that. I don't know exactly how I feel, but it does make me sort of pause. Because I sort of feel like maybe that's not always true. I do feel like, I guess because I don't think that the only way to have a meaningful life is through children. And I think a lot of, I don't doubt that it's incredibly meaningful. I don't doubt that it changes everything, and I can see it and I know it, and it's potentially something to look forward to. But I also know that there's so many beautiful ways to live a life without kids. So I think from birth, our whole life, the idea of like procreate, have kids, be a parent, live for them, like that is sort of thrust on you. So of course, so many people naturally just think that and do it because we don't question any of these like instinctive behaviors that have happened since the beginning of time. But like, why not? Like, let's say you do love somebody and you have always thought that you were going to be a mom, but you realize that it's not going to be possible. They don't want them. Like, don't you have the right to choose that you want the relationship and a different type of life with that person instead of the kid? Like, who's to say that the relationship with the partner is not just as worthy as a potential relationship with a child, or like the bond between parent and child? And I know that they're different. And I know I've heard from people that once you do have kids, then yes, of course your relationships change and the child and your kids become the most important thing. I think it's sort of disrespectful to the people who, I do believe that you can not change your mind again. I don't think a person could change their mind about wanting kids. If I really wanted them and Brian was adamant about not, I don't know if I'd change my mind, but I could come to a different decision. Or am I just saying, it's a really complicated topic. It's a really complicated topic. And I wonder if part of my resistance is I'm just trying to like make room for everybody. I'm trying to make room for everybody to make the right choice for them and to question. I think it's important to question the things that you always thought you were going to do and that everybody told you have to do. Sometimes, again, you might land on thinking, no, I really do want that. I really do want to be a mom. And the reasons I maybe thought I didn't are connected to X, Y, Z. Curious what this episode is bringing up for any of you listeners. I'm curious what it's bringing up. That's it for today's letter. Thank you so much for listening. If you have an advice letter that you'd like me to talk about, send it to hellohaysadvice@gmail.com. We can talk about anything here. I love hearing your stories, and I will be right back for the next part of our episode. I just had an incredible nacho break. May I recommend making nachos more if you are not already in the habit of making nachos? Nachos are my favorite snack. They've been my favorite snack in my family for a really long time. All my siblings and I love them. I think I might make the best nachos, but even a casual, like my nachos just then were maybe a handful of me Nina chips. I'm going to get dinner after I record this, so I don't want to get too full. A handful of me Nina chips, which are my new tortilla chip brand of choice. I had them last year at my friend Matt and Trey's when we visited in Chicago. Don't know how I had never had them before. They're excellent tortilla chips. Handful of those, some Trader Joe's shredded Mexican cheese on top. Throw that in the microwave for 25 seconds, bring it out, some salsa on the side with a little spoon. And it just like gave me some new life. Towards the end of that recording there, I could feel myself shaking a little bit. I do not like being hungry. I do not like being hungry. I am a big, 3 meals a day, snacks kind of girl. There's nothing worse than getting that physical, getting those shakes. And like, there's rarely a time where I like really haven't eaten in a long time. Like I get the shakes kind of, it's probably more mental. Like sometimes I just need a little boost, and nachos are so good. That's level one nachos that I just described to you. What I also love to do is throw some pickled jalapenos on there. I often have a can of black beans open in the fridge, and I've recently started to do the really adult thing of, instead of putting tinfoil over the top of the bean container, I got some new small glass Tupperware, and I'll put the beans in the Tupperware so they stay fresher. But even when they weren't so fresh, I'd, put some black beans on, and then do the cheese there. So delicious. You can throw them in the oven if you really want. Big into nachos here. But that is not what I want to talk about now. What I want to talk about is a bunch of stuff I want to talk about. But first is screen time. So I've posted a little bit about this on my Instagram. It is nothing new, Hayes, that so many of us are struggling with our screen time. Screen time is a problem. I know screen time is a problem. And I think I have felt hesitant to talk about screen time as a problem because it's so fucking obvious and so boring. Like it feels so boring. It feels so boring. I also, 2 jobs ago, for 4 years, I worked at a company that was all about, it was a for-profit company. So it's sort of funny when you talk about for-profit companies with missions like this. The mission of the company was to end the stress and burnout epidemic. And we were a B2B company. We did a lot of it was B2C and B2B, but we did a lot of tools to help employee well-being and help people have better relationships with their phone and better relationships with sleep. And a big part of my job then was interviewing sleep doctors and people who specialized in I was going to say specialized in our relationship with our phones. That's not actually their job, but there are people who are experts on this and do research on it. And I would often summarize the research, write articles about it, do these interviews. So it also probably is just overdone in my brain. But because of that, I haven't really taken my own relationship with my phone so seriously. And I think about it as kind of like a boring topic. But I have a lot of worries about my relationship with my phone and my screen time. And I really want to get to the bottom of this year. And I want to kind of workshop this with you guys a little bit, tell you a little bit about it. I'm curious if it relates to you, if this makes sense to you. So my relationship with my phone, I'm not so worried about my mindless scrolling screen time. I'm not so worried about that. What I am worried about is the way that I check my phone first thing in the morning. I'm concerned about that, particularly because I think if you are somebody who has Slack on your phone or email on your phone, or you have a job where people are communicating with you, we all know the feeling when you receive bad news or there is a problem and you get the Slack notification and your boss is like, "Hayes, where's the thing?" And you realize, "Oh, I didn't do the thing," or you realize you did the thing wrong, or you fucked up in some way, or there's some problem. There's nothing worse than getting that notification on your phone when you weren't really prepared to deal with it. Getting bad news while you are at your desk in your office is one thing, and that sucks. But getting the bad news when you're lying in your bed and it's the first thing you see in the morning and your body hasn't had a second to while your head is still on the motherfucking pillow, that is not good. And I have had that experience both in my former jobs and then in my current career I'm building, making the making sharing things on the internet part of my career, I've had the experience where I check my phone and something bad is happening on the inside. And that is, look, we all are going to have hardships at work. We can't escape that. But I really want to be more in control of when I'm receiving news. And it's not just about like on bad days, checking your phone first thing in the morning is not good no matter what. It's not just about getting bad news, but it's sort of like I want to build the better behavior so that when upsetting things do happen, I already have the behavior of not checking my phone first thing in the morning. Does that make sense? It's feeling like really, really important to me as I, it's just feeling really, really important to me. And maybe it should be important to you too. Maybe it is important to you and you don't know what to do about it. So, one of the ideas, and I was so mad at Brian because one of my ideas is to start sleeping with my phone out of my room. And I've done it for one night only. And we actually did not sleep at home last night. So that it got messed, my plan got messed up a little bit. I'm thinking about trying to do like a challenge for a week, sleep with my phone out of the room. And when I first told Brian that I wanted to do this, he was like, I don't think you can. And I got so mad. Like, how could you respond to me right away when I shared this idea that you don't think I can? And he's not wrong. And he corrected himself. He's like, I think it's going to be hard. Well, obviously it's going to be hard. But I had the idea because I got the Hatch Sunrise alarm clock and it was gifted to me. I received it as a gift from the Microsoft team. They sent me a really cute holiday gift and this really funny sweater. I should show you guys the sweater. A really funny, like ugly Christmas sweater with some of the Microsoft like faces on it. They have these new faces for Microsoft Copilot. I don't know, I forget what the guys' names are, but it's a bright, silly sweater. So there was the sweater, there was the Hatch Sunrise alarm. I did get a year free subscription of Word, which I'm really excited about. I kind of want to, I've been wanting to get, the honest truth is that I've been wanting to get Word, but I haven't wanted to pay for it. And now I will have it. And then it's pretty smart. Give it, and then once it goes away, I'll probably re-sign it then. That was in the gift box. And was there anything else? A journal, a moleskin, really, really, really nice and really thoughtful. But the alarm clock is what I was most interested in. I had seen the alarm online and saw some people talking about it, but didn't look much into it. The alarm clock is kind of freaking amazing. It has a light feature that mimics sunrise and sunset. And 30 minutes before your alarm goes off, the alarm starts to like emit this warm glow. And what I've noticed so far in using it is that when I actually wake up, when my alarm goes off, I'm like less groggy. I mean, it doesn't erase the sleepy feeling completely because it's still hard to get up in the morning, but I feel less like I was hit by a truck. And especially as it's getting darker in the morning, it's been really helpful. But that's not the part of the alarm. That's not what I want to talk about. You can use, since I have the alarm clock now, I'm like, I don't really need my phone. If I can use this tool, set the alarm, not need my phone in the room. Like maybe I can have my phone literally out of the room and then I won't be checking it first thing in the morning or right before I go to bed. I'm trying to like build a better behavior so that I'm better prepared to deal with problems. I really want to get my behaviors in a place that can support me in this career. And some of it is niche to like being a content creator. Some of it is niche, but like, then I think it's actually not that niche because I bet most of you listening have work on your phone in some way. Maybe you're not getting notifications from strangers on your videos. I mean, maybe you are, but you're getting emails, you're getting messages. Like you are also always reachable in a similar way that I am sort of always reachable. And I want us to have better tools so that we are deciding when we're getting that information. You know, we're not supposed to be available all the time like that. And I feel worried because I know how it's affected me in the past. And I'm very protective of myself. And I want to make sure that I don't know, I want to like protect my longevity and my mental health. And I see that my relationship with, it's like instinctive. It's when I was describing this to my therapist, because even before I got the alarm, I told her that I want to try to not check my phone first thing in the morning. And like the first day that I tried, it was like alarming how hard it was for me to not check, how hard it was for me to not open up all my social media apps. And for me, again, it's about seeing what's happening. Like I'm just like constantly checking. And I don't do this about anything else in my life. So it's not like a behavior that applies to other things. But I probably did it with my email back when I like had a corporate job and everything. I don't really, it's funny how I mean, I definitely did. I check and I check, and I know I make excuses for myself. Like, I know I make excuses. Like, somebody suggested I get a brick, and I actually don't even know really what brick is. I'm assuming it's some device that helps you have a better relationship with your phone. I should probably look it up before I talk about it. But somebody suggested I get brick, and they said it's really helped them with their screen time. And my immediate reaction was like, I couldn't get brick because my job requires me to be so on my phone. I have to respond to every comment, not every comment, but part of this is that I have to be present. I have to respond to things. I have to check. And I know I make excuses for myself. Like, it is true. All of that stuff is true, and it's also not. And I imagine that you and your job might make excuses for yourself too. Like, I have to check my email. I have to check. I have to know what's going on. My team might need me. Somebody might make a mistake if I don't check. And like, that is true. And you're allowed to have boundaries. You should have boundaries. And I think the thing about boundaries, I always say, is it's really hard to keep our own. Boundaries are hard. Like, if you're doing things and if you're throwing around the word boundary and you're like, you have to do this for me, like, we're forgetting about the hard part. Boundaries are about us, and it's hard to keep our own. I'm curious just like what you guys think about that. I was going to document it a little bit. I recorded one, like sort of like a 7-day. A new friend of mine, Rebecca, gave me that idea when we were talking about the alarm. She's like, oh, you should do like a 7-day challenge of sleeping with your phone out of the room and record it. And I was going back and forth about whether it should be like 7 videos or 1 video. I think 7 videos might be boring. 7 videos might be boring. So I'm recording them, and maybe I'll like do one reflection at the end. I know obviously 7 days is categorically not long enough to build a new habit or to break a habit, but it is long enough to maybe see that I can do it and start to notice the positive effects. Anyway, curious what you guys think about that. Moving on to heated rivalry. I finished the series last week, the last episode in the cottage. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, the moment that when Ilya got in the car and they were driving out to the cottage and admitted he was nervous, like, it was just the sweetest episode. And the burgers, and when Shane's dad walked in and saw them, and it was like, Ilya was like, obviously I'm coming with you to come out to your parents. Like, obviously I'm coming. And then at the end, when Shane got scared, I mean, I don't need to recite it all to you. I was just so moved by how they love each other and their arc, like how they both grew and changed. And it's funny because I know that it never really struck me as being toxic, because even though in the beginning for Ilya, it was so seemingly all about sex, he was still like sweet with Shane. And as my friend Charlie said, we were talking about it, Ilya never made Shane do something that Shane didn't want to do. And there was always like consent and kindness. And while yes, there were times where it seemed like maybe Shane wanted more than Ilya, they're also like, I never actually really got that sense. I never really got the sense that either of them were like really disappointing the other, or it didn't feel like a toxic relationship to me at all. And it would be it's interesting to reflect more about why that is. Maybe the situation they were in was so complex, and they both had so much figuring out of themselves to do and what they were going to be comfortable with in their career. But their relationship never struck me as toxic. It did strike me as sad. I mean, episode 4, was it episode 4? Was it episode 5 when they were looking at each other in the club? I mean, that was all the things she said running through my head. That was painful, while Ilya was dancing with that girl and Shane was with Rose. Episode 5, I felt so bad. I like started out the episode being like, I fucking hate Rose. I hate Rose. And that wasn't really fair of me to feel about her. She didn't know that Shane was gay. And then like 2 minutes later, she did the sweet thing and had the conversation with him where he came out for the first time to anybody but Ilya. And then I'm like, wow, I shouldn't have just been such a bitch to her. But I didn't like her because she represented to me his hiding. And like, she represented to me everything that was holding him back. But what a beautiful moment. And you could like see him just relax and see that maybe this is going to be possible. And when Scott pulled Kip down at the rink, I mean, that moment, we all threw our hands up in the air when we saw that. I do wish that we got more of their relationship. I mean, that episode 3, where we just watched Kip and Scott fall in love, that was like one of the most beautiful unravelings. Is it an unraveling? Like the most beautiful way I've ever seen a love story unravel in a single episode. And what a testament to the writing too, that like I bought that. Like in one episode, I truly bought that they fell in love. In one episode, I would have loved to see more from them. It's really interesting the way the series was structured, that like we had a whole episode that was focused on another couple. I think it was important they did that Jacob made that choice though, for us to see that it's not just Shane and Ilya who are the only closeted players. There are bounds to be other closeted players too. And I thought that was really powerful to see that. I absolutely loved the show. I really, really, really loved the show. I hope there's going to be another season. Do we think there's going to be another season? Oh, and the scene with the Russian monologue. My toxic trait is that if I were Shane and gave Ilya permission to, bare my soul, say everything I needed to say in another language, at the end, I'd be like, okay, now tell me just one thing you said. Tell me just one thing you said. I mean, I'm guilty of doing it now. Like if I can tell Brian is thinking about something, it's really hard for me to like let him not talk about it. And like, sure, sometimes it's good to not talk about things. I mean, sure, sometimes it's good to talk about things, but sometimes also you just like don't want to talk about it and you like need to process it alone and it's none of my business. But it's always hard for me. And I'm always like, just tell me one thing. Just tell me what you're thinking. Just tell me. And that's an annoying trait that I am working on. Now that I've finished, I'm watching Tell Me Lies. I'm caught up. I'm not caught up. I have one more episode left, but I've watched the previous seasons and I'm just starting the latest season. I've watched the first 2 episodes and it's really hard to watch. I mean, I sort of hate watch this show. It is so toxic. Steven, if I was going to murder somebody, it would be him. Like that man needs to be eliminated. He is so awful. And when I first started this show last year, I did have this like fear that there are young people watching the show and like think that maybe this is what love is supposed to feel like. I really hope not. I was sort of worried about that because, Summer I Turned Pretty. Sure, they all make poor choices. But at the end of the day, I mean, dating the girl your brother is in love with is actually not great. But I mean, Tell Me Lies puts that into like a whole nother level. I mean, it's just really dark. I will keep watching because I do want to know what happens. I kind of wish that I had read the books first. I'm only 2 episodes in. What I will say so far is that I am loving what's happening with Diana and Pippa. I'm loving that. I thought Diana saying, spoilers, okay? Spoilers. Episode 2, I thought Diana saying, should we try kissing to Pippa was like the sweetest thing I've ever heard. The sweetest thing I ever heard. And Pippa was like, I think Diana said, would it be crazy? Would it be crazy if we tried kissing? And Pippa's like, no, that wouldn't be crazy. Let's try. And then when they kiss, you can just see that, oh, this is what kissing is supposed to feel like. And that's probably what I loved about Heated Rivalry too. Like seeing people do things and realize what feels right for them is just a magical thing. So I'm loving Diana and Pippa's awakening together. And I'm also really liking what's happening with Wrigley and Bree, which maybe is fucked up because it's a little secret behind the scenes. But when Wrigley and Bree were sitting talking, I think one of the things that's so hard about experiencing something like fucked up, Wrigley's younger brother died, is when people try to make it better and tell you that things are going to be okay or that things are going to feel better. And as Bree says, it might not get easier. It probably won't get easier. And seeing the relief flood over Wrigley's face when she says that, it's like, yeah, sometimes you don't want people to pretend. Some things are just really bad and they will never get better. You will survive, but it's like, it's probably not going to get better, the fact that your brother died. You will learn how to live with your life and you will have moments of joy, but that fact is not going to get better. Your pain might become less intense all the time. It's less saturated. Perhaps your ability to bounce back from the pain you'll be able to return to the non-grief moment faster, maybe as time goes on. I don't know. I just thought that was such a powerful scene when she says it might not get easier. And he like laughs and he needed it. And I thought that was kind of beautiful. So I'm curious to see how the episodes are going to unfold. Yeah. What shows are you guys watching? I did get a recommendation from someone to watch Pluribus. So I think I'm going to start that. I've heard that a little bit. I love TV. My brain probably needs a little bit of a TV break because it's like after a night of work, I'm like watching TV and I should be maybe reading a little bit because I love reading and it's fun being in it's fun being in like a TV centric mode, but I can feel that maybe I need to like take a wee little break, but maybe not. There's so much good TV out right now. All right, that is it for today. I'm going to get ramen for dinner. One of Brian's awful traits is that he does not like ramen, and I love ramen. So I'm either going to go out by myself, which is fine and fun, or we'll order from two different restaurants on the same street. We live near an area that has tons of Japanese restaurants, lots of ramen, some good like teriyaki spots, sushi, and maybe we'll just do like a double stop by, and I'll run out and pick up my ramen and pick up something from him. Anyway, thanks for listening, you guys. If you like this episode, please consider leaving a 5-star review on your podcast platform. It means so much to me and helps the show get to new people. And I will see you next week. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next week.